It's Monday. It's morning.
It's Macabre
With your host, Drew Carey. Could you imagine if we had Drew Carey?
Wayne Brady.
Just the whole cast of Whose Line Is It Anyway? I almost said, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, we'll get it. Regis in here too. Why
Regis and who hosted after him? This is important to the podcast.
I forget her name.
Anyway, welcome to Monday Morning Macabre, the podcast where we talk about spooky, scary skeletons and other macabre subjects.
Sending shivers down the spines of listeners everywhere.
Today it's a beautiful Monday morning.
It's beautiful.
And we
have the audacity to do this live.
Yeah, every single time you hear this, you're just tuning into the right channel on your phone or app. These are all live, and you're very lucky.
Yeah, a red light turns on in our room, and every time someone starts it, we have to start
phone
over
rings,
live.
And we have to run to the mic and go, Monday.
It's Monday. It's morning.
Octung. Welcome to Monday Morning Macabre with Scones and Darcy for another edition, a new edition of Getting Creepy With It. Today, Scones will be delivering the story. Actually, before we get to that,
yes.
Quick shout out to everyone who's been reviewing. I've seen a couple new reviews. We appreciate it. Everyone's been very nice. Best. It's a huge shout out to RDG Tattoo because they made an insanely cool art piece. They made I guess you can call it fan art, but I mean,
they took our logo and kicked it up a notch. It was beautiful.
They made a super cool tattoo, like old school tattoo looking artwork.
And the fact that anyone is not annoyed by what I do enough to make a cool tattoo of it, that's the best feeling in the world.
Exactly. The fact that somebody was like, I enjoy this enough to make something is mind-blowing. So huge thank you to RDG Tattoo. Go follow on Instagram. Really, really cool stuff. And shout out to everybody who is leaving reviews and rating and all that good stuff. That's enough preamble. On to the amble, Scones.
We're at the amble, so
Scones is going to be bringing us a spooky tale today.
Of course, yes, I am.
Of course,
so
yes.
This one I came across. We're here at the Macabre headquarters.
Yeah, we're in a volcano.
At the big office, and this one came across my desk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is case file 448436.
Yes, an intern number 448436 brought it to me. We have a lot of interns here that work for us. We're very powerful.
Yeah, we're the largest hiring. We make the LinkedIn top 5 places to work every year. So
every year.
Shout out to LinkedIn for that.
Free ads.
LinkedIn. People have it. That's it.
LinkedIn. Don't put anything about your personal life.
LinkedIn. Wear a suit and smile.
LinkedIn. Most of the time, though, it's just you at a wedding.
LinkedIn. Who can pay for headshots?
So, what do a state senator, a hitman, a serial killer, and a reverend all have in common, Darcy?
They're all in the same political party.
Oh, we're going there.
I don't know, Scones. What?
They're the top suspects for a mass murder of
okay,
of a family for 8 people.
Okay, so 8 people were murdered
one night. These are the suspects. This is Monday Morning Macabre.
Now you said, let's backtrack. We said state senator, hitman, and 2 other things.
A reverend,
and
a serial killer.
Okay. See, the serial killer is like this is like the horror movie where it's like
Scooby-Doo. Yeah.
You got a hitman and a serial killer, but it turns out that they're like, oh no, we changed our ways back in the day, and now
it's like Clue. They're all in on it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that would be amazing. Okay, so somebody murdered a family of 8 people. You say.
So let's go to the town.
Please say it's not John and Kate.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Can you imagine?
That would be nuts.
I was like, this happened yesterday.
John and Kate -8.
Villisca, Iowa.
Villisca. How do you spell Villisca?
Villisca.
Villisca, Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the year 1912.
Oh, so this is like a long time ago.
Yes. Which you'll see plays into why it's unsolved.
It's funny because when you say hitman and then say 1912, like my brain doesn't process that. Because I imagine like a dude in a suit with guns and like...
It's not John Wick now.
It's not...
So, June 9th, 1912, Lena and Inna Stillinger are the daughters of Joseph and Sarah Stillinger. And the Stillingers are going to church on an early Sunday morning. They plan on having dinner with their grandmother after the morning service and spending the afternoon with her and then returning to their home to spend the night at the Children's Day exercises concluded. The girls, however, decide to sleep over at a friend's house, the Moores.
Okay.
So the Moores are residents, and so the two girls come over. The Moores have 4 children of their own.
Now, you said the Moores are their neighbors, or are they friends, or what was the...
Or they're friends. They're townsfolk.
Okay,
they go to the same church. So after this morning mass, it was a children's mass, the 2 kids go over, the 2 daughters decide to sleep over the Moores' house. The Moores have 4 children of their own.
Okay.
And so...
So we're at 6 children.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a Sunday. The Children's Day program at the Presbyterian Church is an annual event.
It's like CCD.
Yeah, it's an annual event.
Oh, but it's once a year. Okay.
So it starts at 8 p.m. on Sunday night, June 9th. According to witnesses, Sarah Moore coordinated all of the exercises. All of the Moore children, as well as the Stillinger girls, participated.
When we say exercises, do we mean like... We're not talking like Zumba, right? We're talking like... religious activities?
Christian stuff, like making
She's
cutouts
not
of
like,
Jesus.
okay, you're all going to drop and give me 30 push-ups right now.
Stillinger ran that shit.
Just a boot camp.
The program ended at 9:30 p.m. and the Moore family, along with the Stillinger sisters, walk home from church. They entered their home sometime between 9:45 and 10 p.m. and went to sleep.
Okay.
The following morning, at 5 a.m., Mary Peckham, the Moore's next-door neighbor, stepped into her yard to hang her laundry. She does this until 7 a.m. when she realizes that no one had actually come out of the house.
Wait. She started when?
5 a.m.
She was hanging laundry for 2 hours?
She's outside for 2
All right,
hours.
number one suspect. Nobody does that shit. Are you kidding me?
It's 1912. There's no washing machine.
I mean, I get that there's no washing machine, but like,
dryer.
god damn, 2 hours. Could you imagine?
So that's a long time to do anything.
Yeah. Let's do another hour and 45 minutes of this podcast.
Let's just hang laundry and do an audio.
That would be a good podcast.
So 7 a.m., Mrs. Peckham realizes that no one's come out of the house. And so this is 1912 Iowa, so that's weird.
Okay.
Whereas if someone like called the cops every time no one came out of my house at 7 a.m.,
7
I'd be like,
a.m.
dude, stop fucking calling the
I'd
cops.
be like, please, I'm sleeping. I work a night shift.
But since it's 1912, they have to like go outside and do all the chores and hang their laundry for 3 hours and do all the crap.
Right, yeah.
Especially if you have 4 kids. Imagine how long it takes to hang laundry.
I'm so glad we don't live in 1912.
Yeah, life is rad.
Life is sick. We can buy tech deck dudes.
So many tech deck dudes. But at the house itself seems unusually still, she described. Between 7 and 8 a.m., Mary Peckham approached the house and knocked on the door. No one responded. She attempted to open the door, but could only find that it was locked from the inside. After letting out the Moore's chickens, so she was being a homie, Mary placed a call to Josiah's brother, Ross Moore, setting into place one of the most mismanaged murder investigations ever.
Oh, I'm excited for this. We've covered some mismanagement.
Yeah, it's
I
so
can't wait
funny.
to
Our number one thing we do on this podcast is like criticize law enforcement.
You know what's funny? Even more funny is that
one person's going to write and be like, hey, dickhead, it's not that easy. I don't want to fucking get caught.
On yeah, that's true. Yeah. Hey, they're really trying to not make it easy.
And we're going to backpedal so hard, be like, I'm so sorry.
Like, shout out to at Cop Lovers 69 for
I'll donate my piggy bank.
On Twitter, I see a lot of people whenever like I look in like podcast stuff, everyone's like, I just need to find a podcast that will like criticize police for their shoddy work. And I'm like,
keep walking. This ain't it.
Anyway,
wait, they don't want that?
They're saying they're like us, where they're like, hey, why are there so many that are glorifying police work? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure every podcast I've ever listened to has always been like, this is not great.
Yeah. Also, it's 1912, so I'm sure it's very limited.
Police work is literally just a guy like walking by, flipping a coin, like, oh, what happened here?
The guy with the camera's taking 3 hours to take the picture, and just
huge flash. It's blind.
Yeah,
everybody.
and then they look at it later in a police office, and they're like, well. There's no color in this picture. Is that blood?
I spilled chocolate syrup all over the crime scene, unfortunately. We're all old Southern gentlemen.
Yeah. They have all like old timey names. Like one's named Curly and like
Jebediah. And anyway, so
based on the testimonies of old Mary Peckham and those who saw the Moors at the Children's Day exercise, it is believed that sometime between midnight and 5 a.m., an unknown assailant had entered the home of J.B. Moore. J.B. Moore is a strong name, by the way.
J.B. Moore, it reminds me of W.B. Mason.
It does.
Which
is also a strong name.
LL Cool J.
Or L. Ron Hubbard.
Or L. Ron Cool J.
Or George R.R. Cool J.
Oh, that's a crossover. J.R.R.R.R. Cool J.
I would listen to the Game of Thrones book on tape
if it was
LL Cool J.
LL Cool J. It was George LL Cool J.
But someone had entered the home of J.B. Moore and brutally murdered all occupants of the house with an axe.
Oh, okay, good. This is how it always goes.
Right. So Ross Moore, who she told Ross, old Ross, that's J.B. Moore's brother.
This is like Friends.
Yeah.
We got Ross.
So
Rachel
Phoebe
Moore.
told Ross, and so Ross went over to the apartment, and the chicken and duck weren't fed. Upon arriving at the home of his brother, Ross Moore attempted to look into the bedroom window and then knocked on the door and shouted, attempting to raise someone inside the house. When that failed, he produced his keys. Don't know why he didn't just do keys first at this point.
Interesting.
And found one that opened the door. Although Mrs. Peckham followed him into the porch, she did not enter the parlor. That's an old-ass word.
All right. So, yeah, that's true. It's not a foyer. It's a parlor.
Yeah, it's a parlor.
Okay. And Miss Peckham got Ross Moore, right?
Yeah, so she's the neighbor, and she gets the brother of J.B. Moore, the uncle of the kids. So Uncle Ross is over. Ross went no farther than the room off the parlor.
Okay.
Which was a bedroom. He opened the bedroom door. He saw 2 bodies on the bed and dark stains on the bedclothes.
Oof.
He returned immediately to the porch and told Mrs. Peckham to call the county sheriff. The 2 bodies in the room downstairs were Lena Stillinger, one of the friends that came over, age 12, and her sister Ina, the other friend that came over, age 8.
This sucks.
The remaining member of the Moore family were found in the upstairs bedrooms by City Marshal Hank Horton, who arrived shortly.
Hank Horton.
Every person in the house had been brutally murdered, their skulls crushed as they slept. Josiah Moore, age 43, Sarah Montgomery Moore, age 39, Herman Moore, age 11, Catherine Moore, age 9,
Yikes.
Boyd Moore, age 7, and Paul Moore, age 5.
So somebody went and murdered everybody with an object with like blows to the head and nobody like silently or
so it appears that no one awoke.
That's nuts.
They were all killed in their sleep.
Jesus.
The crime scene was a mess.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So the cops obviously left to go get backup because this was a mess. Yeah. Because it was just one dude that showed up and was like, holy fuck.
And this must be like a small town thing where obviously you're not getting 8 people killed in a...
So you got to get like a municipal body from a larger area to come clean it up.
In like police searches defense, it's usually it's the worst versions of this that we see is usually when it is like a small town that is not used to having any kind of homicide. So it's like,
and this would rock like a city.
Oh yeah,
let alone a small town.
Right. Especially just some random Iowa town in 1912
and not having any leads.
Yeah, and no way to like. Literally, the only way they had to gather evidence was like, if you didn't say anything, like how it's so hard for people to figure out who did it back in 1912.
Yeah, exactly. And if like people can just like go blow in town to town, like
exactly,
no records,
right?
They're like you pay for everything in cash, so it's not like there's any kind of paper trail,
right?
You just need to rely on like the store clerk being like, yeah, I saw a guy. He had a weird look in his eye.
Yeah, a man with a funny demeanor came through here, and you're like, okay, it's probably this guy.
It's a business owner that's like, I didn't recognize him. They're like, it's him.
we found him.
A guy no one recognized.
What do you mean? Justice served.
So, where this really went to shit as far as solving the crime, word got out. I've read that like people say that a cop told someone that he shouldn't have.
Loose lips,
while he was going. Exactly. And word got around because it's a small town. And basically neighbors and curious onlookers just all like engulfed the house, came in, like went into the house, going to the bedrooms to look at stuff and like look around. And they were gawking at the bodies and like, so finally the Villisca National Guard arrived. Is that right?
Probably like
they have their own National Guard.
It's probably like a militia thing of being... I feel
it's 10 dudes in their 50s.
Yeah, they're like, hey, we're the National Guard / softball team.
We're also the fire department. They finally arrived at noon and cordoned off the area and secured the home. But like there'd already been tons of people in
at
there
that point,
like touching everything and like
yeah.
leaving their DNA. Well, I guess DNA is not a factor back then, but like
no, at
like,
that point, it's
touching shit.
It's all garbage.
So the facts regarding the scene of the crime. Let's go over the facts. Listeners, I'm, of course, at Monday Morning Macabre headquarters, and we have a giant cork board with all the facts laid out, so try to stay with it.
Yeah, try to stay with. There's a lot of strings that are attached to pins in a map.
Yeah, it's Pepe Sylvia, yeah. 8 people were bludgeoned to death, presumably with an axe left at the crime scene. So they have the murder weapon.
Just left it, like, man.
I actually heard it was like, why were axe murders so prolific in the early 20th century? Because there's a lot of them.
Is it because there's axes everywhere?
And people were like, it's an epidemic. Yeah, it's just because every house had an axe in it, so it's really easy. Right. And I was like, oh, that's not nearly as fun as just being like, the demon patron saint of axe murdering came to town.
The zeitgeist of the time was controlled by a axe-wielding murderous demon.
Exactly. It appeared that all were asleep when they were murdered, like I said.
Yep.
Doctors estimated the time of death as somewhere shortly after midnight. Curtains were drawn on all the windows in the house except 2, which had no curtains. Those windows were covered with clothing belonging to the Moores.
Were any windows open, left open, anything?
No. And they were all shut, like with curtains like closed.
Yeah.
All the victims' faces were covered with bedcloths after they were killed.
Okay.
A kerosene lamp was found at the foot of the bed of Josiah and Sarah, the parents. The chimney was off and the wick had been turned back. The chimney was found under the dresser? The chimney was found under the dresser? Yeah, I mean, it's a word for a type of lamp or heater.
It must be like the some kind of part of the lamp that...
1912, man.
Yeah, you mean the iPhone 7's flashlight was found underneath the...
The axe was found in the room occupied by the Stillinger girls, who were staying the night as friends. It was bloody, but an attempt had been made to wipe it off, and the axe belonged to Josiah Moore. So they found out that the axe was the house's axe.
It doesn't even matter. That's like
it's not like someone brought the axe.
It's not like someone brought an axe, and the person didn't even have to attempt to wipe the blood off. There's no forensics. They have no there's nothing they can do.
The ceilings in the parents' bedroom and the children's room showed gouge marks, meaning that the person swinging the axe swung it over their head.
Okay.
Piece of a keychain was found on the floor in the downstairs bedroom. A pan of bloody water was discovered on the kitchen table, as well as a plate of uneaten food. So it's like the person washed their hands and was going to eat something.
That's so creepy. That's always the creepiest is when it's like the person stayed in the house for a whole day after the incident, like with like Hinterkaifeck, where like you just
this is very Hinterkaifeck.
Yeah, it's very 1912's Hinterkaifeck.
All of the doors were locked, so they locked as they left, whoever it was. And
that's kind.
Yeah. Real nice. The bodies of Lena and Ayla Stillinger were found in the downstairs bedroom off of the parlor, like we mentioned. Ina was sleeping closest to the wall with Lena on her right side. A gray coat had covered her face. Lena, according to the inquest testimony of Dr. F.S. Williams, lay as though she had kicked out 1 foot of the bed sideways, with one hand up under the pillow on her right side. So basically, like, her lower body was hanging out of the bed.
Yeah, okay.
She was her nightgown was slit up, and she was wearing no undergarments. So you're gonna put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah,
there was a blood stain on the side of her right knee, what the doctors assumed was a defensive wound on her arm. So she lived after the first strike, is what they're telling me. A defensive wound.
Not good.
He also said that there was a slab of bacon on the floor in the downstairs bedroom lying near the axe, wrapped in like a dish towel. And then another slab of bacon was found in the icebox.
In the Xbox?
In the drive of the in the icebox. You fucking ruined their Xbox, dude. Lindquist also made note of one of Sarah's shoes, which he found on Josiah's side of the bed. The shoe was found on its side, however, it had blood inside as well as under it. So it's likely that the killer returned after the first blows, came back, and kicked the shoes around, like moved the shoes somehow.
Ooh, okay.
So based on like the wounds to Josiah and Sarah, there's evidence and like blood dripping and like stuff like that. He killed them, left that room, might have killed other ones or did something, and then came back to continue like chopping at their head.
Jesus Christ.
Most of the people weren't like recognizable, and a lot of it looked like was done with the blunt side of the axe. Right? Like,
why would you? I mean, that makes no sense to me.
No.
Oh, okay. So this person
it's
was
like a sick
Yeah, right.
a sick thing.
To
have that level of detail for something like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously a small town is going to be rocked by something like this, and rumors start to fly. Rumor. And we get suspects.
Who we got?
Well, let's go to our first suspect.
I'm fascinated to hear how they came up with these.
State Senator Frank Jones. So Josiah Moore,
yep,
the father of the household who was killed, worked for Frank Jones at the Jones store. You know, the Jones store.
Yeah, Jones store. They sell horses, knickknacks, clothes, general items.
Now, Josiah Moore left and opened his own company in 1908, which was a competing company to old Frankie J. According to Villisca residents, Jones was extremely upset that Moore left his employment and managed to take the very lucrative John Deere franchise to his store.
I'm going to be... Okay.
Cost him a lot of money.
I know this is unsolved, but if this is just like a petty, like, business murder, what a...
Right. So in today's time, it doesn't hold water. It also doesn't fit, like, the sicko kind of aspect to it.
There's definitely an angle of it where...
You'd go in, you'd kill the guy, you wouldn't murder two kids that aren't even his.
There's definitely, like, a sadistic...
Although there's more. Rumor was that Moore had an affair with Jones's daughter-in-law, Donna. Her name was Donna. D-O-N-A.
Donna?
Donna.
It's definitely Donna.
You need another N in there.
Mr. Moore, or Mr. Wait, was it Moore or Jones?
Mr. Frankie Jones.
Mr. Jones, sir, you need another N in there?
Which further fanned flames of them hating each other. Detective Wilkerson of the Burns Detective Agency openly accused Frank and his son Albert of hiring someone named William Mansfield to kill Joe Moore. Neither Jones was arrested ever, and both denied vehemently any connection to the murder. So, that brings us to that man himself, the hitman, William Blackie Mansfield.
That's a sick name.
William Mansfield was from Blue Island, Illinois, and he was the prime suspect of the Burns Detective Agency who was on the case.
It's also wicked cool that they just were like, we've got there's a detective agency on the case. It's not just like the New York Police Department. Like, you're like, oh, we hired Burns Detective Agency. And they have to, like, go in and be like...
They went straight to the top. Yeah. Mansfield was also known as George Worley and or Jack Turnbaugh.
Is there alternate identities, I assume, that he has used through his hitmanning?
Yep. Detective James Newton Wilkerson was on the case. He believed Mansfield was responsible for the axe murders of his wife, infant child, and father-in-law. So Wilkerson's own...
This dude's he has history with...
Wilkerson's own wife, infant child, and father-in-law and mother-in-law were all killed by an axe murderer. So they're like, nuts. I think it's him.
That's wicked sick, actually.
Yeah.
That's like some Hannibal Lecter shit.
Mm-hmm. 4 days before Villisca murders and the murders of Jenny Peterson and Jenny Miller in Aurora, Colorado. So there's a whole chain of murders that they're trying to pin on this guy.
Okay.
William Blackie Mansfield.
Yep.
According to the Wilkerson investigation, all the murders were committed in precisely the same manner, indicating the same man committed them.
A little modus operandi.
Wilkerson stated that he could prove that Mansfield was present in each of these places on the night of the murders. In each murder, the victims were hacked to death with an axe and the mirrors in the homes were covered.
Wait.
Like he couldn't look at himself, so he covered all the mirrors?
In all of these instances, these mirrors were covered?
Yep.
Okay, this is the guy.
And there was a burning lamp with the chimney off that was left at the foot of a bed of each victim.
Okay, I am 100% convinced now.
You have no proof he did any of these, let alone one of them.
Oh, I thought they were chasing down this dude because they knew he committed one or the other.
No.
Okay.
Wilkerson managed to convince a grand jury to an open investigation in 1916. Mansfield was arrested and brought to Montgomery County from Kansas City. Unfortunately, his alibi was airtight. Damn. Well, I guess that's not unfortunately. It's fortunately an innocent man didn't go to prison, but
so there is
definitely death row for this.
Okay, yeah. So there is a serial killer out there with the same
so
MO.
That's the big question here. We're going more from Villisca, Iowa. There's a bigger picture that's being painted here.
Okay, so that to me kind of rules out the Frank Jones.
Right.
Okay.
Which is why they were never arrested or indicted.
That makes sense.
But he does have a motive. So when I say
sure,
you build a list and then you whittle it down.
Yeah. That's understandable.
So like this guy had a list, but he had an airtight payroll records that he was in Illinois at the time of the murders. Because back then you went and picked up your payroll stuff.
Right, you had to, yeah.
So like he had to be there.
Yep.
He was released for lack of evidence and later won a lawsuit he brought against the detective agency and was awarded $2,225, which is a pretty penny back then. Wilkerson believed that the pressure from Jones, the senator, resulted not only in Mansfield's release, but also in the subsequent arrest and trial of one Reverend Kelly.
I can believe it's a reverend. Turns out a lot of reverends are not great guys.
Yeah.
So I can totally believe that.
Reverend George Jacqueline Kelly is arrested in 1917.
Okay. What do they got on him? Give me the dirt.
Reverend George Kelly was a traveling preacher. Kelly and his wife settled in Macedonia, Iowa, and in 1912, after several years of preaching throughout the Midwest. In 1970, Kelly was arrested and charged with the murder of 1917, yeah, so 5 years after the murder.
Okay.
Kelly is arrested. Kelly was invited to attend the Children's Day exercise at the Presbyterian Church that night. So he was there.
Oh, and he is traveling. So that is,
yep.
That explains a route, a bunch of people getting killed all over the place.
He also had like a reputation, I think.
He also had an amputated arm that he replaced with an axe.
And he would swing around saying, "Come here, kids."
He'd go, "I'm going to get you in the night. It's me, Reverend Kelly."
Kelly was English born, and he was traveling through town the night of the murder. As an adult, he's been accused of peeping and several times asking young women and girls to pose nude for him. He even tried to hire a girl, and he said like she could have the job, but she'd have to be like a secretary type thing, but she wouldn't be allowed to wear clothes.
What the fuck? Dude, reverends, please. Like, even back then, just one. God damn.
In the weeks that followed the murder, he even displayed a innate fascination with the case and wrote a ton of letters to police and investigators. Like he was obsessed like with this murder.
This was when he was arrested, or this is after it happened?
No, this is after, because he was arrested 5 years after.
Yeah,
but like the weeks immediately after in 1912, he was like fascinated. He's calling police to ask about details.
Yeah, this guy seems like a real... Yeah, I mean, that's classic murderer move, is put yourself back into the like investigation in some way. Or like go back to the scene and see what's going on when they're investigating.
Right. So Kelly, obviously a dude, like weird dude. He reportedly had mental breakdowns and like illnesses and stuff. And obviously was an insane person to be a reverend and ask women to...
Yeah. Crazy
person. So when he calls and asks about all these details and stuff, he's trying to get like involved in the case.
Yeah, which is classic murderer move.
It aroused suspicion, and a private investigator. Private investigators are all over the place. I love the PIs. It'd look better for them if they solved anything.
That's true.
So a private investigator looked at all this mail and was like, "What the fuck?" And like wrote back to Reverend Kelly and asked for details and was like, "Do you know anything about the murder?" Kelly replied with great detail and said that he'd heard sounds and even witnessed the murders.
All right, yeah, this dude's all right. God, fuck this guy.
So they're like, "That's how would you have all the like?"
Yeah. How do you know all these things? He's like,
it was pretty well known by the police at this time that he was a crazy person and had mental illnesses and stuff. And so, not to say I'm gonna get blasted for saying mental illness is crazy. They're different. This dude's fucking crazy. I'm not even gonna say mental illness anymore. This guy is off the fucking rocker. But his known history made authorities question whether he knew the details because of having done the murders himself, or if he was just imagining it to like insert himself and be like part of it
to fuel his inner wackadoo.
Yeah. So then we go back later to 1914, 2 years after the murder. Kelly gets arrested for sending obscene material through the mail. So I think pictures of it, I think dick pics, really.
Yeah, this is the OG DP.
And he was sent to St. Elizabeth's Hospital, a mental hospital in Washington, D.C.
Could you imagine today if somebody sent someone else a dick pic and then they were thrown into a mental institution? Snapchat would be full of just mental people.
Insane people.
Yeah.
And they're all like reverends. And so they arrest him. They interrogate him. He confesses to the murder.
Great. How do they botch it? It seems like it's been pretty solid so far.
None of what he confesses makes sense, unfortunately. And he made a mockery of law enforcement practices at the time and had withdrawn any kind of confession before the trial actually started. So he's like, I did it. Here's what I did. And they're
JK.
like, you definitely admitted to it, but it doesn't make a ton of sense what you're saying. And then by the time the trial happened, he said that he recanted any confession. 2 trials occurred.
What an asshole.
And he was acquitted.
Regardless of if he did do it or did not do it, he is an asshole. We can confirm.
Yep. According to information presented by Kelly and Tammy Rundle, I don't know who that is. Oh, no, they're historians. Kelly moved to Kansas City, Connecticut. Apparently there's a Kansas City, Connecticut.
Okay.
Nope. I'm an idiot. Kansas City, Connecticut, and finally New York City. That's a list. Dude, you don't do cities and then a state and then a city. Come on.
Come on, this guy's
Where
trying to
in
get me.
Connecticut? Come
That's
on.
a gotcha sentence, and I will not stand for it.
But the last years of his life and his final burial spot, no one knows.
Okay.
He's just gone.
He's just gone. Sick.
Next up, we have our serial killer. There existed a strong possibility that a serial killer was actually at work. In Wilkerson's case before against Mansfield, even though Mansfield was not the guy, a lot of the evidence points to a serial killer that they uncovered.
Right, yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah, there's all over the place. Similar MO.
Insane amount of similarities. The bacon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, dude, the bacon's gross.
Wait, is the bacon at every single crime scene?
So what they think happened was, you know how he pulled the girls' dresses up?
Yeah.
He didn't actually physically do anything, but he used the bacon for getting his jollies off.
Oh, what the fuck?
Like, he made the first...
Okay.
Yeah, so that's another thing that you can tell it's a wacko with weird... Like, I guess he has rules? He has, like, for some reason, the standards stop there.
Yeah. This guy, what the fuck?
Yep.
I don't like this at all.
Nope. It's pretty grisly.
Happy Monday.
It's pretty macabre, listeners. M.W. McClurry, a federal officer assigned to the Villisca case. So he comes in, he's like, this is my crime scene now. He actually announced in May of 1913 that he had solved not only the Villisca murders, but 22 others that had been committed in the Midwest around the same time frame.
Cool dude alert. Just, I
solved it. I think it's McClaffery? McClaffery's theory was that Henry Moore, no relation to Josiah Moore, just happened to have the same name, was the actual serial killer responsible for every single crime.
Okay. Who is Henry Moore?
Henry Moore was actually convicted of the murders of his mother and maternal grandmother in Columbia, Missouri, months after the murders in Villisca. Moore's family's members were killed just as brutally as the victims of Villisca, and guess what he used?
Bacon. An axe.
That would be a laugh track moment right there. So who the fuck was old Henry Moores? Henry Lee Moore was born November 1st, 1874, in Boone County, Missouri.
Boone County?
Boone County. He was the eldest son of Enoch and Georgia Ann Wilson Moore. That's
some names.
Too many fucking names.
That's some names right there,
You gotta
bro.
chill out with that. There were 3 other sons born from the couple. That's a weird sentence. Henry's father was a farmer and served in the Civil War. I bet he was on the South. His mother was a nurse. 2 of Henry's brothers, as well as his father, passed away before 1910. Henry's remaining brother, Charles, died in 1960 in Stockton, California. That dude was fucking old.
Get old, bro.
In 1900, Henry was living with a family in Franklin County, Iowa, and working as a farmhand. It is suspected that Henry may have fathered a child with a young daughter of the farmers. Henry was sentenced to the Kansas State Reformatory. What a name for a prison. Reformatory?
Reformatory. How do you reform us? Oh, we beat the shit out of you in the yard.
You don't get anything. Not even food.
You don't get sunlight. That's how we reform you.
In Hutchinson, Kansas, on a forgery charge, and was released on April 11th, 1911. The murders in Colorado Springs occurred in September of the same year. So people get killed with an axe in Colorado Springs.
Classic.
Testimony during Henry's trial for this indicated that he had lived with his mother and grandmother during the winter of 1911 and the summer of 1912. And he had left to take a job on the railroad.
On the road again.
So, his mom and his grandmother are killed in Colorado Springs. This guy's brought to trial and sentenced for it.
Yep.
He served 36 years of a life sentence
Jesus.
before being paroled by the governor of Missouri.
Oh, boy.
I thought they'd be harder on this kind of stuff before then.
What the fuck?
The governor commuted his sentence on July 30th, 1956. Henry Moore was 82 years old and had been living at the Salvation Army Center in St. Louis. It is unknown whether he died or whether he was living at the time. Oh, no, it's not whether he died or where he was living at this time.
Okay, so wait, when he got out of prison, how old was he?
36 years. He wasn't
82 when he got out.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, he was?
No.
Because the timeline does not
The
add
governor,
up.
no. He got out 36 years later in 1949.
Okay.
Then
so how
the
would
governor
he...
commuted his sentence, so like got rid of it entirely, not just on parole.
Okay, but how would he be?
1956.
How would he be able to kill people in 1912 if he was
Yeah, so the murders were committed
prior to him going to prison?
Right.
That makes sense. Okay.
Just months before the murder of
Yep.
Villisca, Iowa.
Gotcha.
During the Villisca investigation, other axe murders also came to light. Like, people are just starting to put these together. 9 months before Villisca, Iowa happens. So 9 months before June, whatever. I'm not doing the math. H.C. Wayne and his wife and child and Mrs. A.J. Burnham and her 2 children are all bludgeoned to death with an axe, also in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Gotcha.
A month later, in October of 1911, a family in Monmouth, Illinois is also bludgeoned to death with an axe murder.
Okay, so just a bunch of axe murders happening all over the place at this time.
Yep. A week later, 5 members of another family in Ellsworth, Kansas are murdered as they're sleeping. Just a week before the Moores in Villisca, a man and his wife are killed in Paulo, Kansas. The similarities of all crimes are striking.
Okay.
McClure received information about Moore's conviction from his father, who was the warden of the Leavenworth, Kansas Federal Penitentiary at the time. It's believed that Mr. Henry Moore had committed all of these murders. For whatever reason, McClure's announcement was largely ignored, and to our knowledge, Henry Moore was never actually convicted of any crimes besides the one of his grandmother and mother that he got out for.
Did they ever did they interrogate him? Did they talk to this guy or anything? Or
I don't think they knew where he was because no one would listen to the McClure.
Interesting.
So this guy, essentially, to sum up, that was a lot of stuff going on. Right. So there's 5 families murdered. A lot of people. This guy gets sentenced for 1, only does 36 years, gets out, and lives free, man.
Okay. So, and they all have similar MO as to the murder he was charged for?
All of them.
Interesting.
So all these cases are together. So here we have a man that it looks like he might be our guy.
Right.
But he is never punished, tried, and even gets out of jail and lives a free rest of his life after this. And who knows what he did else.
And ultimately, we don't know who the final... It's unsolved, right? So we don't have any way of knowing. Although this... I mean, every time you brought up a new person, I was like, okay, that sounds more and more and more like what the prime suspect would be. The Reverend is an interesting one.
It is very interesting.
Because that is kind of red herring-y, where it's like, this is just an insane person.
Yeah, he admitted it, but it's also like there's no evidence.
Right.
Besides the fact that he's a crazy person, which is just as much damning of evidence as it is supporting.
But also, like, I find the covering of the mirrors very interesting.
It is very interesting.
Like, that shows so much about, like, the character of the individual who perpetrated the crimes.
Like, they can't look at themselves. Like, they're almost
regretful.
Not regretful, but they can't see themselves doing it.
Yeah.
Like, they go into, like, a state that they get out of if they see themselves.
Which could lend itself to a crazy person.
Yes.
So, I mean, that adds up. And the mass murdering thing... It sucks that there were so many axes lying around everywhere at the time.
Dude, every house had one in it.
Yeah, so it could just be the convenience on several different instances. Like,
another piece of evidence is all the towns that have these murders, all 25 murders took place along the same railroad route.
Oh.
So it is feasible that someone could hop a train and hit all these towns within that short amount of time.
Do we know how these individuals are traveling? Because if, like,
they're all at home. What do you mean?
No, I'm saying, like, okay, so, like, the preacher guy, he's a traveling preacher.
Right.
Is he traveling with his, like, wagon and his, like, bunch of funky trinkets that he...
It doesn't say.
Yeah, because that would be interesting. Because the railroad thing makes me think the mass murderer, because he wouldn't have any way of getting around Whereas if you're a traveling reverend, I have to assume you have some form of travel. I don't know. If that's like your only gig.
It's 1912, man. Like, I can't
That's
even... What is
true.
like, 2 people have a car at this point?
Yeah, I'm not thinking car, but
In
I'm
the
thinking
world.
like some kind of like personal transportation or
Yeah,
like a
like a
horse, buggy or something.
Probably. And that's like that's not easy terrain to go from...
Right.
Like, there's mountains and shit between
Yeah.
Illinois and Iowa.
So we know a guy was jumping trains, killing people.
Do we know, though?
That's
that's
there's a lot of
definitely-
evidence that lends itself to that.
Yeah.
Let's put it into our Monday
There's-
Morning Macabre murder simulator bot.
Beep, boop, beep, boop, bop, bop.
beep.
It's spitting out a large piece of printer paper with holes on each side.
Yep, a bunch of lines drawn like a seismograph.
Yes. Let's, I'm going to rip it up. Hold on.
Oh,
I'm going to put it into this beaker here. Oh, it's turning green. We know who it is.
we know it is. And it. Just end the episode. Just music plays.
But 25 axe victims, like, never get an official person. And it really speaks to how far forensics have come.
Yeah, it's true. I was going
And
to
just
say.
how how, like, sometimes really good it is that the world's interconnected and everyone's on their phones and there's video cameras
it's
everywhere.
100% better now than it was in 1912.
They would have got
Forensic,
this guy
easy.
in months.
The bacon would have been GG.
Dude, have you seen Don't Fuck with Cats? This guy would be done.
It would have been game
Yeah,
over.
well, yeah.
once the
First of all,
bacon-
you would have found the DNA on the bacon.
Yeah, bacon DNA, plus they left the axe there with blood on it, which probably had some kind of fiber, etc.
Definitely. And he left a bowl of water with his blood in it. Or no.
Okay, yeah,
no, I guess it wouldn't be his blood.
It was
But it
prob-
probably
it-
would have his DNA on it.
Yeah, I'm sure there was other things in the place. So
And the fact that, like, communication and policing so disconnected, like, between municipalities at this time.
Yeah.
Like, they don't really work together as well. And so, like, McClurry, like, had it. He was like, it's definitely this guy. And just no one listened to him. So this guy got to go free. And also no one knows where he went.
yeah,
It's just like you could just be like, oh, I'm gone.
Yeah, it's definitely like that. If I had to bet money, I'd probably say the wandering murderer. But
Yeah.
that seems pretty much on brand. for that
Especially
guy.
a guy who has killed before and is for some reason paroled. I don't know if
Yeah, that
that makes me suspicious that there might be more to that story. Why he would go on parole for murdering.
Maybe it's the clue theory, dude. The senator got him on parole because he committed the murder so the senator could get that business going again. And then the reverend was there to be a red herring, and it all connects.
Oh my God.
And a train whistle just went off, which is apropos.
That is apropos. I live very close to a train station. And then there's actually even more. We don't have time to talk about them, but there's more suspects.
Goddamn.
Include that it goes so far as Joe Ricks,
Joe Rogan.
the niece of the Moores, and then they got like tons of mail. Villisca had
I'm
its
sure
hands full.
that,
They got
yeah.
tons of mail from people already in prison admitting to doing
Which is-
the thing.
That's just people being assholes, I feel like.
And insane and like I don't know. I guess if you're on death row, you want to be remembered for something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, it's pretty gruesome stuff. Very reminiscent of Hinterkaifeck effect, and just the thought of 8 people,
Yeah.
25 really, but in this specific location, 8 people, 2 girls who just slept over, and most of the victims kids under the age of 12.
Yeah, that's dark. That's macabre.
Big shout out and thank you to VilliscaIowa.com. Great resource. Someone really compiled a lot of stuff here that included the events, the suspects, and just like they even have a virtual tour on here.
Oh,
So you can visit that out
That's
if you're
fun.
really interested. We can link that on
that's
our
how
website.
that's how desperate they are for having something touristy.
Yeah, but I mean, at least like the town, I guess, really kind of, you know how small towns do
Yeah,
when
they-
something like this happens.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
And then
I
100
mean,
years later, it starts happening again.
Yeah.
Again.
Oh my God.
Again. So, thank you.
Thanks for stopping by,
Thanks
listeners.
for stopping by the Monday Morning Macabre
Headquarters. It's actually a big haunted house. Our secretary's a giant spider.
Make sure to rate, review, tell your friends, do all that good stuff. We
Yes.
appreciate you guys reaching out and interacting with us. It's super cool that we're growing and people are sending us cool stuff and liking the show.
The tattoo is so sick.
Tattoo is super sick. We're still like talking
Still
about
in
that.
shock.
Super cool. And find us anywhere you get podcasts and visit www.mondaymorningmacabre.com for
Do
more.
it.
And have a good Monday.
Boy.
Bye.